The Medellin Cartel was founded and run by one of the most ruthless and popular drug lords of all time, Pablo Escobar. If you're a fan of this channel, you know all too well what fate befell its leader, but have I told you what happened to the Medellin Cartel after Escobar's death? Well, let's get into this video. The Medellin Cartel was an incredibly powerful and highly organized Colombian drug cartel that committed all sorts of crimes and atrocities during its heyday, summed up perfectly in one word: narco-terrorism. The cartel operated from 1972 to 1993 in Bolivia, Colombia, Panama, Central America, Peru, the Bahamas, the United States, and Canada. Under Escobar's leadership, the Medellin Cartel would flourish. What started out as a small network in the early 1970s was raking in $60 million daily in drug profits. But unlike its rise, the cartel's fall was a gradual affair, a cascade of actions that would lead to the Medellin Cartel being devoured by their strongest rival, the Cali Cartel. After Escobar's death, different fates had befallen members of the now broken-up Medellin Cartel. By 1993, most members had either been imprisoned or killed by the Colombian National Police, or by rivals. It's widely believed that Los Pepes, a group founded by rivals of the Medellin Cartel, while others argue it was political reprisals by the Colombian and United States governments, not mere assassinations. But one thing is clear: several key members of the Medellin Cartel are not alive today. In fact, the last of Escobar's lieutenants to be assassinated was Juan Diego Arquila Henao. He had been released from a Colombian prison in 2002 and ran away to Venezuela to avoid Los Pepes. However, he couldn't run far enough. He was shot and killed in his Jeep Cherokee near his home in Cumaná, Venezuela in 2007. There are, however, a few key members of the Medellin Cartel alive to this day, like Escobar's brother, Roberto de Jesus Escobar Gaviria, nicknamed El Osito. He was the former accountant and co-founder of the Medellin Cartel. For his part in the operations of the cartel, he would spend more than 10 years in prison. While in prison, he was blinded in one eye by a letter bomb sent by ever-vengeful rivals Los Pepes. Imprisoned in 1992, by 2006, he was a free man. Another member who survived the fallout of the cartel was John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, aka Popeye. Regarded as Pablo Escobar's top hitman, Popeye was a man who did a lot of terrible things in his days running with the Medellin Cartel. He's willingly confessed to participating in the assassination of the anti-drug trafficking crusader Luis Carlos Galán in 1989, personally killing 300 people and ordering the murder of another 3,000. He was also involved in dozens of kidnappings, car bombs, and the bombing of a commercial airliner, killing 107 people. Yet, after serving 22 years in a maximum security prison, Popeye was once again a free man, at least even for a short while, before his death in 2020. Another member of the Medellin Cartel, who has also been described as Pablo Escobar's chief assassin, is Dandeñi Muñoz Mosquera, aka La Kika. He is believed to be responsible for the deaths of an unknown number of people, with official estimates ranging in the hundreds. He's known to have murdered members of the Medellin Cartel, the Cali Cartel, as well as police officers and government officials. La Kika was arrested in 1991. Among his convicted crimes are the 1989 bombing of Avianca Flight 203, which killed 110 civilians, conspiracy to import and distribute cocaine, substantive importation of cocaine, participating and conspiring to participate in a racketeering enterprise, and engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise. Even though he sports a rap sheet not nearly as long as Popeye's, he was sentenced to 10 life sentences plus 45 years, all to be served consecutively. And finally, part of the last surviving pioneers of the Medellin Cartel, the Ochoa brothers. Jorge Luis Ochoa Vázquez, one of the founding members of the cartel. He was once listed among the world's 20 richest men, with an estimated worth of nearly $3 billion. He would surrender to the Colombian authorities in 1991 in exchange for a 5.5-year sentence. His brother, Fabio Ochoa Vázquez, wasn't so lucky. Much like his brother, Fabio's role in the drug trade also made him a billionaire, and they surrendered together in 1991. After his release, though, he was arrested again in 1999 and accused of contributing knowledge and receiving payments for cocaine shipments. He was extradited to the United States, where he was sentenced to 30 years in a US federal prison. The disintegration of the Medellin Cartel was no accident. Different powers had been waging increasingly bloody battles over the survival of the cartel. These included the use of extra-legal groups and attempted assassinations that were not without collateral damage. A perfect example of the sheer amount of destruction that came from this fighting was the multiple attempts at assassinating a man named Helmer Herrera, a co-leader of the Cali Cartel. One attempt was at a football field on September 25, 1990, when 20 gunmen dressed in army and police attires opened fire at the crowd where Herrera was sitting, killing 18. but managing not to hit Herrera. Another attempt was made on July 27, 1991, in a summer resort. Hooded gunmen, following the same highly ineffective spray-and-pray approach, shot at the civilians around Herrera, killing 17 and injuring 13 others, and still failing to take down their target. This attempted assassination was attributed to Pablo Escobar, who apparently blamed Herrera for a car bombing at Escobar's prized Monaco apartment building in 1988. The Cali Cartel would pursue increasingly elaborate plots to kill Escobar and bring an end to the Medellin Cartel. With the aid of mercenaries, they were going to attack Escobar at his Hacienda Nápoles compound. The plan was to use heavily armed helicopters, painted to look like police helicopters. They would swoop in and surprise Escobar during the early hours of the morning. But after one helicopter crashed into the hillside, the plan was ruined and quickly devolved into a search and rescue mission. Another plot by the Cali Cartel was to bomb the prison where Escobar was staying using an A-37 jet and bombs illegally gotten from a general in El Salvador. But when the jet they planned to use for the bombing landed at the airfield, they found that it was a small executive jet and couldn't hold all 4 of the bombs they had smuggled into the country, and one had to be abandoned. Ultimately, the plan fell apart when law enforcement discovered the abandoned bomb, and some of the people involved in the operation were arrested. In the end, the plan that would bring down Pablo Escobar was the most simple of them all, joining forces with the most powerful group after Escobar's head, the Colombian government and the United States government. Escobar had been granted the privilege of building his own luxury prison, where he would be able to avoid extradition to the United States, protect himself from rivals, and continue to run the Medellin Cartel. He named the place La Catedral. Everything was going smoothly. Escobar was allowed to continue playing prison, and the Colombian government would turn a blind eye. That is, until it was reported that Escobar had 4 of his lieutenants tortured and murdered in La Catedral. The entire arrangement fell apart shortly after. The Colombian government decided it was time to move Escobar to a standard prison, and he refused, and once again, he was on the run. While all of this was going on, the Cali Cartel grew in strength, eventually founding Los Pepes, a group specifically formed to target the Medellin Cartel and bring about the downfall of Pablo Escobar. It is believed that Los Pepes provided information to Search Block, a joint police and army unit specifically created to track down Medellin leaders. In exchange for information, they received assistance from the United States counterterrorism. By the time Escobar was killed, Los Pepes was already responsible for the deaths of over 60 associates and members of the Medellin Cartel, effectively dismantling the Medellin Cartel and bringing about the rise of the Cali Cartel. After the Medellin Cartel disintegrated, the Cali Cartel reigned shortly. They were pretty similar to the Medellin Cartel. They were based in southern Colombia, around the city of Cali, hence the name, and they were founded by the brothers Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela, Miguel Rodriguez Orejuela, and Jose Santa Cruz Londoño. At the height of the Cali Cartel's reign, from 1993 to 1995, they were cited as having control of over 80% of the world's cocaine market, and were said to be directly responsible for the growth of the cocaine market in Europe. The Cali Cartel's international drug trafficking empire was a $7 billion a year criminal enterprise. However, their reign was almost comically short-lived. By mid-1995, the cartel was effectively dead following the capture of Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Orejuela. Between June and July 1995, the remaining 6 of the 7 heads of the cartel were arrested, although it is widely believed that the cartel continued to operate and run trafficking operations from within prison. This would mark the beginning of an evolution in Colombia's criminal underworld. It was an end to large, hierarchical, and vertically organized cartels. What was left were federations and alliances. The remnants of the Cali Cartel would serve as roots for the Norte del Valle Cartel. La Oficina de Envigado is believed to be a partial successor to the Medellin organization. It was founded by Don Berna as an enforcement wing of the Medellin Cartel, the organization that inherited the Medellin turf and its criminal connections in the US, Mexico, and the UK. All that's left now is the memory of the death and destruction that was wrought by the Medellin Cartel, and the few men still alive partly responsible for it. If you enjoyed this video, you should click on a video on the screen. It's plenty insightful, just like this one. See you there.